Hello, my name is Laura Jenkins, and I am a senior here at Meredith College. I've been working this past year with my thesis advisor, Dr. Cynthia Edwards, in looking at the effects of occupational therapy exercises on fine motor progression among preschool-age children with and without autism. Here's a little bit of background and the purpose for my study. Handwriting is essential for all ages and is needed throughout our entire lives. This can be used for things such as drawing, coloring, signatures, writing, and much more. It is crucial for children to begin to learn this skill at a young age. Occupational therapy is a type of therapy where they use exercises to better one's life skills through their use of goals. This could be fine motor skills, gross motor skills, and much more. Previous research examined handwriting ability on the basis of grip and pinch strength. They found that grip strength correlated with pencil control as well as handwriting legibility. Additionally, early intervention programs are effective in improving handwriting and general preschool readiness. Research has also found that fine motor skills increased when using a 10-week response to intervention or RTI plan for kindergartners with special needs. For the current study, I wanted to examine the relationship between children's in-hand fine motor skills, the grip and pinch, and their handwriting ability using both novel and established exercises. So I took exercises from my previous research, as well as some new exercises that I learned and have known throughout my knowledge about occupational therapy. I hypothesized that as the frequency of hand strength exercises increased, then that handwriting ability would also increase. I had 12 participants, ranging in ages 2 to 5, from the Meredith Autism Program. 8 children were diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and 4 typically developing children. Each participant completed exercises related to fine motor skills that lasted for about 5 minutes and was conducted twice a week for 3 weeks. Additionally, some children did receive 4 weeks of treatment. I used an A-B design, which was baseline followed by treatment, and all children were offered reinforcement at the end of each session in the form of slinky, stickers, or bubbles. Parents completed informed consent before any session was conducted. In order to rate the handwriting, I used a scale from 1 to 5 based on their levels of prompting. For the handwriting exercise, I used the letters A, B, and C alternating, and then the shapes circle, triangle, and rectangle. For ethical considerations, all children were treated with accordance to the APA Code of Conduct, as well as their individual protocols. If any child showed any protest, then a session was ended and reconducted at a later time. So here were the following exercises that I used, and in the first exercise, there was a pegboard. Originally in baseline, I had the children pick up the peg pieces and simply put them in the board. Once treatment started, I had the children pick up the peg pieces, place them in the board, and begin to start to stack them. I wanted to look at the way they were picking up the peg pieces and whether they were using their full hand or their fingers for pinch. I also looked at the way they were able to stack them and place them into the board and whether they were using their palm, their fingers, etc. The second activity was using modeling clay. I had 2 different strengths of modeling clay, soft and medium, and there were beads hidden within the putty. The children were asked to use their pinch strength to pull apart the putty and place it into the bowls. For some children, putty was not used, and simply they were asked to pick up the beads and place them into the bowls. For this exercise, I was focused on their pinch strength. For the third exercise, I looked at handwriting. So I was asking the children to first pick up the pen or marker and was looking at the way they were picking up this utensil. whether they were using a full grasp, a pencil grasp, or other grasps like in the picture. Once they had their pencil, they were asked to trace over the dotted lines for the letters and the shapes, and then color in the shape. I have a few examples of this later on in the PowerPoint. For this exercise, I was looking at the legibility of their handwriting, as well as their levels of prompting needed to complete the exercise. I would ask the children to simply trace over the letters and then see what levels of prompting they needed from there. Additionally, for all exercises, notes were taken on the back of the papers to help figure out the levels of skills they were for each exercise at each session. My results indicated increased averages from baseline to completion of the study in all areas, with at least an average increase of 1.08 and a median average increase of at least 0.75. As you can see from all of my graphs, there is an increase for almost every participant. Whether it was small or large, you can see that for almost every exercise, there was an improvement or progression. Here's one example of baseline to week 4 data for the handwriting exercise. This is participant 6, who is a child with autism spectrum disorder. And as you can see from baseline to week 4, there is some type of progression. They are able to stay on the lines much better in week 4, as well as the letters are much smaller and the shapes are better colored in. For this particular child, they were also able to independently do the entire exercise on week 4 with no prompting. For participant 3, this was another child with autism spectrum disorder. And again, you can see the improvement from baseline to week 4. They are able to stay on the lines much better in week 4, as well as color in the shapes more proficiently. For this individual child, they began with independent prompting in baseline, and then continued in week 4, being able to do the entire exercise independently, and the legibility was much better. Participant 10 was a typically developing child, and again, you can see the improvement from baseline to week 4. The ability to stay on the lines in week 4, as well as for the shape, are much more proficient in this child. Additionally, for this child, they were able to independently do the entire exercise with no prompting by week 4 as well. Overall, my results did support my hypothesis, and that continuous progression and practice of these exercises would show some type of progression for that child. However, originally I wanted to look at the groups versus children with autism as typically developing children. And then I began to look at more of the individual progression just based on the difference of their baseline and then their treatment at the end. My research did support Lust and Donica in that early intervention practices do have the potential to improve handwriting skills in children ages 2 to 5 with or without a disability. Additionally, it references how, for my current study progression, intervention plans can show an increase in handwriting for children. Again, based on the individual differences and why my hypothesis changed, some limitations that I ran into were that each child had those different baselines and levels of functioning during the study. Their abilities ranged, and thus their progression differed based on that individual. Another limitation was sickness. Throughout the study, some individuals may have been sick, causing missing sessions, or they might have been feeling symptoms of a sickness during a particular session, which could have skewed the results of my data. There were some unforeseen changes in building location, which then resulted in changes for the sessions. This could have made my final treatment sessions not fully accurate due to the stress or change for that participant. Additionally, each session was conducted in a room within the program. There were 3 rooms, and thus the children could have had biases in a particular room, skewing the results. Due to unforeseen circumstances, some children received the 3 weeks, which was 6 sessions, while others received 4 weeks of 8 sessions. Finally, the compliance of the participant could have skewed results. Depending on the session, the participant may not have been fully compliant or focused, causing one session to differ from another in the forms of participation. I suggest for future research that we look at other occupational therapy exercises. You can also rate the exercises and handwriting using different tools other than the scale that I used. This could be the Beery VMI or many others. Additionally, altering the levels of exercises. This means using smaller peg pieces or maybe different levels of putty. Longer treatment periods can also be very beneficial for this study, as I only looked at 3 or 4 weeks. Again, looking at different populations and focusing on the groups can be very beneficial for this type of research, and seeing if there is a correlation for groups and handwriting ability in early intervention programs. Despite all of the limitations, though, my results did conclude support for my hypothesis and a basis that fine motor skill practices and multiple sessions can improve handwriting ability in children. I would like to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to my presentation. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me at my email. Thank you so much for listening.